The Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 1 premiere, titled The Apostate, in my opinion was a fantastic opening to The Mandalorian Season 3. Every single episode Rick directs always seems to surpass its previous episode. He has a very great talent for bringing out emotion, creates empathy in which I never thought I could have for certain characters. And we get to see that later in this episode. But this premiere starts out with the armorer, who is creating or forging a helmet for a foundling. And I immediately thought that this was possibly a memory, because when you see the Mandalorians, they are not necessarily thriving, but it seems like they are expanding. There's quite a few of them, and it seems to be an initiation or maybe even a baptism, but it's completely stopped and halted by this giant colossal armored alligator. And these Mandalorians are struggling with this giant gator, and the Apostate, the Mandalorian, shows up in his N1 Naboo starfighter and saves them. And immediately I was thrusted into the realization that this was no memory, this was actually in the current time, right after we saw them in the book of Boba Fett. To see the Mandalorians growing in such a short amount of time makes me appreciate the Mandalorians so much, because even though we are away from the story for 2 years, it's still growing without our eyes watching it, expanding, the world building we love to see. And that gives me the same magic I felt when I saw Episode 1, Season 1 of The Mandalorian. This episode has given me so much hope for this season. I feel like The Mandalorian was so magical when it was condensed into its so small timeline in the first season, but even when it expanded out in the second season, I thought it was some of the greatest Star Wars of anything we've ever had. This season is giving me hope that not only are we going to return to that magic feel, there is still so much more to explore with Din Djarin and the Mandalorians and everything this timeline has to offer. And it has given me one of the greatest shots in all of Star Wars anything with the Purrgil. Grogu, almost about to sleep with Din Djarin at the wheel sleeping in hyperspace, and he's kind of on his Spotify playlist, YouTube ambience for Star Wars hyperspace until he is greeted by a colossal shadow of a Purrgil. And this was beautiful, because if you watch Star Wars Rebels, you know what this means. This is Dave Filoni's breadcrumbs. This is the bridge connection to Star Wars Rebels. And it was so incredible. It was fascinating how beautiful they made them, because when you see them in animation, they are a little weird and cringy, and honestly a hard pill to swallow in the Star Wars universe. Giant space whales going at the speed of hyperspace, but this made them so organic, so normal, and it was beautiful, and I will probably remember this shot for the rest of my life. Then we see Navarro, and my favorite, Greef Karga. But of course, like all Mandalorian things, Greef needs Mando for something, and Mando needs Greef Karga. I love it. I love this relationship. I love these interactions. I love to see how the choices of the Mandalorian, him helping Greef, and everything that happened in the first season of Mandalore still creates a world for Navarro in this timeline. I love seeing these characters continue to live in a space that we saw them introduced in, and it's always evolving. And this episode expands on that and introduces the pirates. Oh my God, I cannot tell you how much I wanted to see the Outer Rim completely uncontrolled. Everything that happened after the war, after the movies of Return of the Jedi, the pirates are a huge problem in the Outer Rim. The New Republic can't handle anything, and I wanted to see so much more of the Imperial remnants and the pirates. These pirates get their hands on technology from the New Republic and the Empire, and they wreak havoc, and you get to see just a little bit of what's happening in the Outer Rim, and finally after 3 seasons we see that. Now, are they going to be the big bad in season 3? Nah, I don't think so. There's always something else. There's always another character that's going to be introduced. Is it going to be Thrawn? Is it going to be Bo-Katan? Is it going to be Moff Gideon? I don't know. And that's what I love the most about this, because this first episode was just the start. It was just the tip of the great iceberg about to reveal itself for the rest of the season. This was only 34 minutes, and it may not have been high octane like the season 2 opener, but it was just as good, in my opinion, with quality. And as I stated before, this director has a certain way to bring emotions out of characters. And the Mandalorian Din Djarin goes and meets Bo-Katan on her planet, in her castle, and you see how destructive him winning the Darksaber was for her. Casca Reeves, all her Mandalorians are all gone. They've abandoned her, and they're doing Mandalorian things as mercenary. And it's so beautiful because you see now that the Watch branch of Mandalorians, the Zealots, which of course is who Din Djarin spawns from, they are kind of getting stronger, and they may even be a prominent threat to not only Din Djarin, but also Bo-Katan and all the rest of the Mandalorians in the galaxy. This is going to be an insane season, and I can't wait to see where it's going to lead us. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I loved this episode. I don't think it was a 10 out of 10. It definitely had its flaws. It wasn't as long as I hoped it would have been, but hey, after 2 years of The Mandalorian and only getting 2 episodes in the Book of Boba Fett, this was exactly the start that I wanted to see. And I cannot wait for more, fam. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all subscribe, and I'll see you around. Deuces, fam.